Mom, where are you? Wedding music in the background, kids running, voices snapping orders. I looked at the steam rising off the hot springs and said, calm as a clock, Jason, don't wait for me. Silence. Then he tried again. What about the food? Don't wait for that either. I'm 70 years old, and today I remembered I'm not anyone's free staff. 2 days ago, in my own backyard, I heard the plan I was never told. Miss Evelyn is built-in childcare. 15, maybe 18 kids. She'll keep busy, so the adults can talk. Built in, like a coffee maker, like I wouldn't notice the bill tucked in my purse. So I canceled the trout, canceled the pork, canceled the rentals, wrote a letter, packed a robe, drove to the mountains, turned my phone face down and let the hive buzz. Now the wedding starts in minutes. There is no buffet. There is no free babysitter. There is a lesson being delivered on time. If you've ever been the woman who always helps, the mother who becomes a line item, or the grandmother who gets parked with the strollers, listen closely. Today, I'm choosing dignity over duty. And before this night is over, they'll learn the price of calling a person built in. Because love given freely is a feast. Love demanded is a tax. And I just canceled the tax. 3 days before the wedding, I was in my kitchen with the windows open, the fans going, and the counters covered. Lemon zest zinged in every bowl. Vanilla hung on the air like a lullaby. I moved between racks of cooling cake layers and a clipboard where I'd made notes about vegetarian options and gluten-free rolls. Outside, the maple leaves shook like a mother's laugh. I popped out to cut rosemary and thyme from the bed along the fence, my scissors catching the sun. I didn't mean to listen. I've lived long enough to know that eavesdropping never brings you something you want to hear. But when I stepped back to the door, I heard my name at a tone that was all sugar and no fruit. Miss Evelyn is going to handle it, Lena's voice said from the patio, bright and easy. I could see her through the screen, winding bouquet ribbon around her hand. Her sister Britt sat cross-legged in one of my porch chairs, hair up, sunglasses pushed to the top of her head like a crown. Jason was by the grill on his phone, half turned away. Handle what? Britt asked, an eyebrow in her voice. The kids. There are, 15, maybe 18 kids. Some of them are babies. But Miss Evelyn's basically built-in childcare. She likes it. Britt laughed in a way that had no kindness in it. 15, Lynn. That's a daycare.
It's basically free, Lena said. Paying sitters would be insane, and if Miss Evelyn's with them, we won't have interruptions during photos or when the investors come talk to Jason. Investors. That word sat on the porch like a guest who hadn't been introduced to me yet. Does she know she's the babysitter? Britt asked. Lana let out a little laugh. We hinted. Jason told her there'd be little ones, and she, of course, offered to help. She always offers. It's perfect. And the food? Britt asked. If she's chasing toddlers, who's carving the pork? She won't eat much, Lana said, as if that answered any part that mattered. It'll keep her busy. It's better that way. Better how? For adult conversations, Lana said. And that was when I set down my scissors and looked at my own hands to see if they were shaking. They weren't. The shaking was under the skin, below where anybody could see, the kind that comes when the thing you've suspected gets confirmed by a voice you'd tried for 2 years to trust. Jason finished his call and walked in. What are my girls laughing about, he asked. And my daughter-in-law sang, logistics, like a song that didn't have a story. Jason kissed her hair the way I always hoped he would love again. He said, Mom's an angel. She could run the whole hotel. Lana smiled at him and said, she'll be occupied. And if he heard the particular edge in the way she said it, he didn't show it. I took the herbs inside, washed them, patted them dry, finished the frosting, and nodded when Lana told me not to work too hard. I said I was fine. I said everything was on track. I said there would be plenty. I said what they all wanted to hear because I wanted to hear it too. That night, when the house went quiet and I could finally hear my own breath over the whir of the big fan, I sat on the edge of the bed where my husband used to fold his socks, and I laid out my life like a pack of cards. Love on one side, dignity on the other. I put the debt people thought I owed them right in the middle and blew it off the mattress like dust. I called May. I have known that woman since she moved into the duplex behind ours with a baby Bjorn and a fear of the oven. We fed each other's children and washed each other's turkey pans and saw each other through the kind of losses you don't say out loud in the deli line. Ev, she said when she heard my voice, who put their shoes on your table? I told her, my daughter-in-law thinks I'm a piece of equipment. She said I'm built-in childcare. I could hear May's blood pressure rise through the phone. Then she went calm the way a lake goes when the sun finds the right angle. Get your purse, she said. We're going to book a place that smells like steam and eucalyptus. I unbuilt the next morning. I called the fishmonger. I called the farmer. I called the rental company. I paid the cancellation fees and said thank you when men were surprised a woman my age could be decisive. I texted Rhonda to save her dahlias for somebody else's joy. Then I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter in ink because I wanted the words to have weight, even if they were just on paper.
Jason, my love, by the time you read this, I'll be somewhere quiet with water and trees. I offered a banquet because I believed I was a guest at your day, not your staff. I heard otherwise. I rescind my offer. I will not be the free babysitter for 15 children. I will not be the unpaid caterer. You have time to arrange what you truly value. With love and dignity, Mom. I slid the letter under the salt shaker where Jason always sets his elbows when he comes over. I looked at it and thought of all the notes I've written him. Permission slips, birthday cards, grocery lists when he first moved out and called to ask which butter to buy. This one read like a woman who just learned a new language and wanted to say something simple and true. May showed up at 7 with iced tea and travel mugs and the kind of smile people pay for in magazines. We drove out of town while the sky was still pale. The ridgeline made the horizon look like someone folded it once and then again. The radio was low. Neither of us asked if I was sure. My whole body was the answer. Hot Springs is the kind of old that keeps secrets. The bathhouse walls have seen men come back from war and women come back from babies, and both kinds of people sit in hot water and remember what their bones are for. The woman at the desk gave us robes and called us ladies, like it was an honorific. She asked if there was an occasion. Yes, I said. Independence. I turned my phone face down at 11:30 because hands shake less when you can't see somebody else's panic. It buzzed and finally went quiet because I'd told it to. Somewhere in town, flowers were going into vases, and chairs were being set 2 by 2 in rows. Somewhere in town, the DJ was testing the mic, saying, "Check," in a voice that would make my late husband roll his eyes. Somewhere in town, grown people were excited and nervous and a little hungry. And somewhere in town, a woman was realizing the person she intended to use had turned off her phone. At 1, we sat on the terrace with salads that cost too much and tasted like you didn't have to wash the dishes. May raised her fork and said, "To saying no." I laughed with my whole mouth for the first time in a while and clinked my water glass against hers. There's a particular lightness you feel when you set down a box you had no business carrying. My shoulders felt 3 inches lower. At 3, because I am a mother and a person who has worked around emergencies for 40 decades, I turned the phone back on. 17 missed calls, 10 texts, 3 voicemails, 1 number I didn't recognize that would turn out to be Lena's father. I scrolled. Mom, please call. We found your note. Miss Evelyn, we can fix this. Please tell me where you are. Guests are arriving. Mom, the food. We planned around you. This isn't fair.
There are 18 kids, not 15. Parents are asking where to drop them. Please, please, please. I called Jason. He answered so fast I didn't even hear a ring. Mom, he said, where are you? We're starting in 15. People are already... I'm at Hot Springs with May. I left you a letter. There's no food, he said, like the ship was taking on water. There's a grocery store 20 minutes from the lodge, I said. They have sandwich trays. Fill a cart with fruit and chips. Get bottled water. People will forgive anything with enough salt and something sweet. Mom, Jason's voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard since he was 8 and broke his wrist falling out of the willow tree by the creek. Miss Evelyn, please. That last wasn't him. It was Lena, closer to the phone now. She didn't sound sweet. She sounded like a woman who has just realized how much something costs when you don't plan to pay for it. Put me on speaker, I said, and he did. Hello, I said into the loud room. This is Evelyn. I was going to be your cook. Some of you were told I would be your childcare. I am neither today. A woman said, we were told there would be a sitter. And I was told there would be adult conversations I should be kept out of. And the room went the kind of quiet that could be heard on another line. For your children's safety, please keep them with you or hire the service I'm about to tell you. It's called Smoky Mountain Sitters. They are licensed and expensive, as good help is. I hope the ceremony is beautiful. I hope you eat. I hope you learn what it costs to treat people like people. Someone hissed. A child cried. A man coughed and tried to turn it into a laugh. I took them off speaker. Mom, Jason whispered, Lena wants to talk to you. Miss Evelyn, Lena said, and this time the miss sounded like a hammer. You promised. I offered. Promises are mutual things. You made an assignment. You don't do this to family, she said, teetering on the edge of a tone you don't get to use on the woman who raised your husband. I don't do this to myself. Family doesn't hide bills in a mother's purse. We'll pay you, Jason blurted like a man trying to plug a leak with both hands. Mom, please. You can pay professionals. You can pay the pizza place. You can learn that day of services cost more because you didn't plan. What you cannot do is pay me to forget what I heard. A crash in the background, then a chorus that sounded like a flock of startled birds. Who's watching the kids? Somebody kept asking, as if repeating it would conjure a person to do it. Jason, I said, soft as I could. I love you. I am not coming. I heard him pull in breath to argue. Learn the difference between a mother and a staff member. Learn it today, or you will keep relearning it, and it will cost you more later.
I ended the call. I set the phone down. May put her hand over mine for a minute, and then took it away because she knew I didn't need to be comforted so much as witnessed. We sat there and watched a hawk ride air like someone was pulling him on a string. By 8 that night, the messages read like field notes for a study in consequences. Jason again, 5 times. Lena once, sharp as vinegar. A number I didn't recognize. Michael, it turned out, Lena's father, apologizing in a voice that sounded like a man who just realized the story his daughter told him had left out all the parts that make a person look bad. A mother of a ring bearer telling me that they had left early and supporting me without knowing me. Cousin Sarah, bless her, with a single line. Proud of you. At 10:30, Jason again. The night is over. It was a mess. I'm angry, but I think I understand why you did it. I need to see you. Tomorrow after 3, I typed. Then I put the phone on the table and I went out on the little porch where the air smelled like old trees and warm stone. I have never slept better than I slept that night, except maybe the night Jason came home from his deployment in one piece and told me I could stop living on the sound of the front door. He looked like both a boy and a man at 3:15 the next afternoon. Wrinkled suit pants, hair finger-combed, a face that had found out hard news and was not going to pretend it was anything else. He stood on my porch with his hands in his pockets and then remembered himself and took them out. Hi, Mom. Hi, baby. I still call him that, and he still lets me. We sat in my living room, the one that smells like lemon oil and old books. He leaned forward the way he does when he is going to say something true. I have to apologize, he said. I'm listening, I said. You let somebody turn you into a line item, he said. I wanted to save money. I wanted Lena to feel like she had it handled. I wanted to believe you just liked doing everything, which is a ridiculous thing to want. He laughed once, not kindly. I didn't ask. I didn't protect you when she and Britt talked like... He didn't finish. Did you hear all of it? Enough, I said. Enough to know that in the story you told yourselves, I was free labor and I'd be happier if I gave you something to do so I wouldn't talk too much. He put his face in his hands for a second like a church painting. I'm sorry, he said. Being sorry is part of it. Changing things is the rest. What do you want me to change? He asked it the way he asked me once how to change a tire. I wanted to kiss the crown of his head like I did when he was 4 and asking me why rain made rivers. You will ask, not assume, I said. If I say no, you will not whittle that no down until it looks like yes. If anybody speaks of me as a resource instead of a person, you will close that conversation. And when there is a family event, I will be seated as family, not parked in the kitchen like a space heater. Done, he said. And when he said it, he looked like his father in the eyes. Lena wants to apologize. She says she didn't know how to have a mother-in-law and she panicked and tried to control you. She doesn't get to use panic as a broom. But I'll hear her, not because you want me to, because I want to. He nodded. I'll tell her. Also, the pizzas were terrible. Good, I said. And he laughed in a way that let me know I hadn't lost my boy to the kind of woman who makes men small. Lena came on Thursday. She looked younger with no eyeliner, like she'd washed her face of everything but her feelings. She sat on my couch like a girl in a principal's office, but kept her chin up because she is proud even when she is wrong. Miss Evelyn, she said, thank you for seeing me. Tell me why you're here, I said. I used you, she said. I said ugly things. I told myself you liked to be useful because you always smiled when you were doing something for us, and it is easier to live with myself if I think someone else is happy to be exploited. She flinched at her own word and let the flinch be seen. I have a stepmother who made me feel like a stray dog at a picnic. I learned to control before I could be controlled. That isn't an excuse. It's the shape of the hole I fell into. Awareness isn't repentance, but it's on the same road. I went to therapy on Monday, she said. I told the therapist I wanted approval from you without earning it, and services from you without paying for them, and peace at my wedding without doing the work to plan for it. She said I was inventing a mother I could feel superior to. I don't want to be that person. You already aren't, I said, because the girl sitting in front of me wasn't the girl on my porch saying built-in childcare. She was somebody else who maybe got scared and turned into the worst version of herself for a while. But I don't give forgiveness on credit. You earn it, slowly, with verbs. What verbs do you need? She asked. You will tell your sister the truth, not the version that makes you look like just a little rude, the real one. You will never again build a budget on my back. If I offer something, you will ask twice if I truly want to do it and can afford it. And you will use the sentence, I am not entitled to Evelyn's labor, until your mouth learns it better than your fear. She looked right at me and said, I am not entitled to Evelyn's labor. The words tasted new on her tongue. Good, I said. Would you like some tea? She laughed then, hands loose in her lap. Oh my God, yes! We didn't become best friends in a week. We became two women who understood that the space between us is a thing we both have to tend. She brought me flowers without expecting me to find a vase. I asked her about her mother without asking her to cry on my sofa. We learned to meet in the kitchen doorway and not try to step through at the same time. I waited for proof like you wait for bread to rise. You don't open the oven every minute. You look through the glass and you trust the yeast. 2 weeks later, Jason called and asked if I would consult, his word, on a small backyard dinner he wanted to throw for a redo for Lena. Everything's ordered, he said. Caterer, rentals, a babysitter named Joy who costs what she's worth. If you want to be a guest, be a guest. If you want to lend your eye for an hour, I'll pay you or I'll owe you a favor. Or we can hire a designer. I'll lend my eye for free because hearing that sentence was payment. We tied rosemary to napkins and scattered votive candles like little planets. We stacked plates and tucked the serving spoons in the bowls in advance because nobody wants to be yelled at about missing utensils when they're hungry. At 7, when people arrived in shoes they could walk in, Lena hugged me once and let go like a person who had learned a thing about holding on. We hired Joy. We're paying her $25 an hour and a tip. She has a bag like Mary Poppins and the patience of a stone. Good, I said. May she also have a whistle. When one of Lena's friends complimented the evening, Lena said, Evelyn's taste. I borrowed it tonight. And she didn't tilt the compliment toward herself or erase me in the telling. She let credit go where it belonged. That small movement felt like someone opening a window. Not every cousin got the memo. At Thanksgiving, months after the wedding, my niece asked whether I would do what you do and handle the entire meal so she could host without, in her words, having to do all that. I smiled like a cat that knows the door is locked from the inside and said, I am bringing dressing and a lemon pie. If you want to hire a caterer, I have names. I will also be wearing a velvet sweater that does not need gravy on it. She laughed and tried again. I didn't move. Jason tipped his head and said, We'll split a butterball with you. And my niece finally realized that a woman who has publicly chosen dignity cannot be moved by a sideways please. We ate turkey that somebody else roasted. We took leftovers in foil like any normal family and thanked whoever paid the bill. Other things changed in smaller, kinder ways. The fishmonger teased me about going to the fancy spa, and I gave him a slice of lemon pound cake on the house. Rhonda saved me the good dahlias when the season turned. Dahlia's father, Michael, called to tell me that he had told Lena he was ashamed of how she treated me, and then in the next breath asked me for my potato salad recipe and whether he should add mustard. I told him yes, not too much. He said he knew that already and just wanted to hear me say it. In late spring, Jason and Lena sent me a picture that looked like television snow and words underneath, "We're pregnant." My heart said yes, the way prayers do. They came over with takeout because they were already learning that cooking is harder when somebody is making a person. Lena put her hand on her stomach like it already contained a personality. Jason said, "We want you to be the kind of grandmother you choose to be. If you want tea and stories on Tuesdays, we'll set the kettle out. If you want to travel and send postcards, we'll put magnets on the fridge. We won't put your name on a schedule without asking." I cried in the sesame noodles. I told them, "You just wrote me a love letter." When the baby came, a girl with a mouth like a rosebud and a squall that meant her lungs were healthy, I held her and said, "Your grandma doesn't do martyrdom. She does soup and she does poems." We called our Tuesdays story soup. I made broth. I made up stories with a chicken who wanted to see the world, and a carrot that thought it was a candle, and a potato who learned it was good to be solid and plain. The baby's fist opened like a star when she slept on my chest. Lena lay on my couch with her eyes closed and sighed like a person who trusts the room she's in. I wrote a little book, because once you choose yourself out loud, other women will ask you to show them how to conjugate that verb. I called it Second Helpings, recipes you can make without making yourself small. I printed 30 copies at a place on Merrimon. People laughed at the title and then bought it for their sisters. I did a reading in Jason's backyard under the same bistro lights, and when I got to the chapter called "No is a Complete Ingredient," the women made the noise women make when relief has a shape and someone names it. "Say the sentence," I told Lena after the applause, "because sometimes we have to practice." She said, "I am not entitled to any women's labor," and then she added, "especially yours." And I put my hand on the top of her head for just a second, the way mothers do when they bless people without asking permission. This isn't a fairy tale. There are still days when I offer too quickly because my instinct is to put my hand out when I see someone slipping. There are still times when Lena tries to soothe herself by planning me and stops herself mid-text, typing, may I ask if you want to?" There are still cousins who think I'm fascinating and a little rude. Life didn't become easier because I bought a robe and wrote a letter. It became truer. That is a better kind of hard. I think a lot about the day I took off the apron I had tied on for love and found that it had started to feel like a uniform. I think about the way my fingers didn't shake when I canceled the trout. I think about how my phone buzzed like a mad hive, and I let it. I think about the woman in me who waited too long to learn that saying no is not unloving. It is the only way to make yes mean anything. People ask if I regret missing my son's wedding. That is the wrong question. I did not miss his wedding. I skipped being used. I sat in hot water and remembered my own bones. I watched a hawk ride air, and I knew that at 70, I had time to teach new people in my family how to love me right. And then I did. If you need a scene to keep for yourself on a day when everyone wants your hands, keep this one. An old woman with a baby sleeping on her chest, a pot of soup humming low, a doorbell not ringing because nobody is assuming a free service. Keep the scent of lemon cake cooling on a rack because you made it just to make it, not because anyone told you it was expected. Keep the sentence under your tongue like a peppermint. Love given freely is a feast. Love demanded is a tax. You may cancel the tax. You may still love and be loved more honestly for it. I keep that sentence on a sticky note beside the kitchen timer. When it buzzes, I check the oven.
When the door opens, the room fills with something warm. I cut a piece and put it on a plate and take a fork to the porch. The maple moves like a woman smoothing a dress. The air smells like whatever good thing is happening. And when my phone vibrates, I answer it if I want to, and if I don't, I don't. That at my age feels like standing up straight after years of leaning over a sink. It feels like air in the bottom of your lungs. It feels like the first time a baby wraps her whole hand around your finger and you realize you do not have to hold everything else. Jason called last week to ask if I knew a good sitter for a coworker's anniversary dinner. Yes, I said. Her name is Joy. She's licensed and expensive, as good help is. Tell them to tip like they mean it.
He laughed. "Consider the memo delivered," he said. Then, after a pause that meant more, "I love you, Mom." "I love you more," I said, automatically, like we have since he had baby teeth. And we hung up with the simplest feeling between us. I was his mother. He was my son. Nobody owed anybody a buffet. Every so often, I think about the words seamless and invisible, the way they were used about me that day. Seamless sounds like a compliment until you realize it means no one saw the seamstress. Invisible sounds like magic until you realize you were the person who disappears. The women I worked with at the hospital had a way of raising their eyebrows when a doctor asked for something, like he had just invented needing it. We called it the eyebrow of God. It was a tiny expression that meant, we see you seeing us as scenery. We are not. I wish I could go back to the younger me, 30, 40, 50, and hand her those eyebrows. I wish I could tell her that saying no is a legacy you can leave as well as heirloom recipes. But I also know she had to get older in order to believe that she is allowed to keep hours for herself and spend them on a good book and a bath and a blanket and a long phone call with a friend who remembers things you've forgotten. May and I go back to hot springs sometimes. We sit with our feet in the water and remember the day I put the phone face down. We gossip about the produce guy's new mustache and a deacon's terrible casserole. And we plan nothing for as long as we can get away with it. Independence, she says when we sign the receipt, again. And I nod and tuck the pen back into my purse like a prize. One of the last times we went, a young woman at the desk told me she'd read my little book. She said, "I loved the chapter about setting the table for yourself. I never thought I was allowed." I told her, "Baby, you're always allowed." And May glared at me until I added, "As long as you leave the place setting for somebody else who needs a chair." Because that is the real thing I learned past the spa and the phone calls. Boundaries aren't barricades. They are the rails of a bridge. You set them, and then you can walk across with people without falling in. You can invite folks onto your side if they take their shoes off. You can go to theirs if they say, "Come as you are." You can carry soup and stories and lemon cake and still have hands left to hold a baby. I wish you could see that baby's face when I tell the story of the carrot that thought it was a candle. She is 6 months now, and she laughs like bubbles. She reaches for the spoon as if she could stir her own story into the pot. One day, she will be 26, and someone will call her built-in something, and I want her to have the sentence ready. I want her to say it kindly, but like a bell. I am not entitled to your labor. I am not a line item. Ask me. Don't assume. And then, if she wants to say yes, may it be a yes with swing and music in it, the kind you dance to at a wedding where the buffet was made by somebody who was paid. The sitter is laughing with the ring bearer. The bride is talking to the groom's mother, as if she were a person with stories she wants to hear. And the groom is bringing his mother a plate and telling her he loves her, like men who learn their lessons do. I didn't miss my son's wedding. I found the rest of my life.